It's right here.
As close as you can get it. Alright, chaps. Good morning. Welcome back.
Evening, lads.
Morning, lads. What time is it over there, guys?
Just a beautiful 10:15 p.m, boys.
So where exactly are you based now, Cuz? Chelsea?
Just straight in the back, arse end of Chelsea, cuz.
Backside of Chelsea.
Backside of Chelsea. Down on the water, cuz.
You supporting the Blues now, guys? Is that what that means?
No, I'm not supporting the Blues, cuz. I'm sticking with Arsenal. Stay strong. Stay with the underdogs.
Yeah.
You know how they are. Maxie's definitely a Man City supporter. Underdog always.
It's mine,
Always
Holland.
got to back the little guy, lads.
They have it so tough at the moment. But yeah. How you been, boys?
Not bad, guys.
It's been a while since we posted, considering the technical difficulties we had last time.
Yeah, it's the copy strike. I mean, all new creators get struck out of at some stage, and you got to figure out where the line is. I guess ultimately it turns out streaming other people's content for the full Olympic stream is going to hit some copyright strikes.
Yeah.
But, you know,
I was reading into it. Apparently you can do it, but it needs to be in 10-second segments. More than 10 seconds, you're going to get banned. So you can do clips of 10 seconds, and that's it.
Because I was looking at people like Aussie Man that like does his stuff.
Yeah,
like, how does he get
yeah.
on?
Yeah, people do reacts all the time.
Maybe TikTok does have different. Because are you watching him on YouTube as well? Are you? Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, he had a lot of Olympic stuff, but a lot of it's like spliced up. So maybe it's not just the fact that we're just sharing the screen, streaming it straight off was probably a feature as well. It was a pretty damn good episode though. I was pretty bummed that we couldn't put it out there.
The viewers definitely will love that one.
Maybe when we're big enough, we have a chat to YouTube directly and see if we can't just throw it on.
Yeah, I think we can have our own rules later on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
they'll
think
draft
we
up
can have a chat.
something. Yeah, that sounds pretty
We'll start a
decent.
few forums, but that'll be what happens.
Yeah, agreed. Well, anyways, let's just launch in, lads. So, what are we starting with? I guess, launching straight into the US. Pretty big
can I
news
just
for
say-
Republicans. What is it?
RFK Jr. has one of the worst voices I've ever listened to.
Is that your first time listening to him?
Yeah. Let's launch into the 90-minute sit down with Tucker. And,
It is tough listening to him sometimes, but I like the points that he's getting across, to be fair. I found it interesting about the whole Kamala thing as well. Like, he reached out to Kamala, and Kamala just said, "Nope, I don't want a bar of you."
yeah,
So very, very interesting.
she's really not doing any kind of interviews at all. I
No.
think they're kind of just limiting her exposure to kind of limit any potential damages she can do.
Yeah, so
keep
So anyway,
Yeah.
he sat down with Tucker Carlson and launched into a good hour and a half chat about just the general state of things. But yeah, exactly right. I did find it extremely interesting that he didn't just jump over to the Republicans, because obviously the Kennedys are Democrats at their core. So he wanted to do the right thing, and he did approach Kamala and say, can I get an audience with you and have a conversation about policy? He's quite the environmentalist, Bobby, so he was an environmental lawyer, practicing out of New York for quite some time, and that's one of his core issues. But yeah, they wouldn't. She flat out refused. They offered him a low level, some sort of low level scumbag, and he's like, well, stuff you.
Yeah, it's interesting on the environmental issue. I think that's going to be a point of difference between him and Trump. Yeah, Bobby's pretty, as he said, pro-environmental policies, whereas Trump not so much. So I found that interesting. He came out publicly and kind of, was very advocate for it over the interview.
Yeah. So
Everything
then-
else is pretty much aligned with Trump's policies, freedom of speech.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Durav, the Telegram CEO, Section 230 talked about.
Yeah.
Found that.
So Section 230 is essentially the social media companies get immunity from any sort of defamatory things that might be said about people from other people. So that because essentially they wouldn't be able to function if they were getting sued every time someone said something defamatory. But the big newspapers and things don't have Section 230 immunity. So when you're writing articles and stuff, lawyers would go through it before putting it out there, because Washington Post, New York Times could get sued. But that's the difference.
Is that true though? I thought there was something where if they post a redaction, then they could be there's a little bit of immunity to a lawsuit there, as long as they post a redaction.
Yeah, is it? Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, they get a chance.
But it doesn't. I think the problem with them doing the redaction is that it's already hurt whoever they posted or wrote about. The punitive damages for those people just in that short period of time before they post the redaction. It's already sullied their name, so there's a few problems with it. And I believe that's what they're trying to open up, is that you can sue for damages for that period of time before the redaction is posted.
Yeah, well, I mean, just cast your mind back to the Ben Roberts-Smith fiasco and the amount of heave-ho that was going with on Channel 7.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Although I saw, what's his face? What's his name? Nickel? Forrest, Forrest...
well, I know who you're talking about, though.
Come on, help me out here.
The
guy,
nickel
miner,
who?
Aussie.
Forrest.
PHP. Yeah. What is his first name?
What happened?
Just a sec, I'll just find it real quick.
Andrew Forrest.
Yeah, but what's his
Andrew
nickname?
Forrest. Yeah, he's got some nicknames, because they'll come to me too, alright? But he's going out and suing Meta, and that's been in the press relatively recently. That was just this year, because he wasn't even on Facebook, and there are all these scam accounts popping up everywhere, and about him trying to slug dodgy cryptos. He appeared in more than 1,000 ads on Facebook over last year, leading to millions of losses of cryptos. He's suing them. I don't know how far. And then the latest updates, I don't think he actually was able to. Here we go. So Forrest said Pitt's decision was the first where a social media company was unable to invoke Section 230 immunity in a US civil case over its advertising business. But then they ended up not pursuing criminal charges. So that was one of the rare exceptions where Section 230 immunity wasn't upheld.
Yeah, so
interesting.
Bring it back to Bobby. So they're trying to remove it. Is that right? The Liberals, the Liberal Party, want to remove it. I think, yeah. Because what's actually happening with Durov over in? Has any files actually been? Is he actually been charged?
We have to bleed on it, because
you guys can look into it.
Questions.
It's fine. It's Twiggy Forest.
Come on, lads.
Twigs. Yeah.
Old twigs, big twigs.
Thanks for that, guys.
All right.
I thought you would have known that, because I thought he was your mate.
Just the boy from downstairs, boots on the ground.
But essentially, it all wraps. It's all tied into censorship and Democratic Party trying to pursue changes to Section 230 immunity, which would essentially lead to a lot of these social media platforms being unable to function. Yeah, so that was one of the core concerns about censorship, and that bleeds into a lot of the other issues there, because the fact that they aren't letting Kamala come out to speak and do any form of interviews is suggesting this whole apparatus is behind the scenes, and Kamala's not really running the show at all, and they're not letting her speak for herself. So it's all quite scary when you look at it like that.
Do you think that's a bad idea, though? Or a good idea from the Democrats not letting her speak for herself?
Probably not. Unless, how much of a liability is she?
I think she's a huge liability.
I tend to agree. Some of the stuff she comes out with, and I know they pick apart big segments that she's talking about, but it is quite damning. Just lies that she's been telling anyway.
Yeah, she got the couple fuck ups she had just went completely viral, and that was recently. So after that, they're just we can't risk it. Any slip up is just going to go completely viral. So they're look, better safe than sorry. Let's just take her out of the public eye.
Yeah.
Also, just quickly back to CEO of
Yeah,
Telegram.
give us the rundown. What's happened then?
Give us a rundown, guys.
So CEO Telegram, Pavel Durov, facing charges. He's banned from leaving France at the moment. He's got a bail of 5 million euros.
Yeah.
Yeah. Telegram.
Yeah, so
said
the
to be promoting-
US told Macron to hold him there or something. This is kind of what I understand of the situation. But what's the big fuss about it?
Well, the platform was used for like sex trafficking and
That's what they're saying, yeah.
so
Drugs.
they're trying to charge him for it.
Yeah.
So he's been like, how can I can't really control it. Which is pretty fair.
Yeah, and that's, I
Yeah.
guess, so that's where the Section 230 comes in. Is he going to be held accountable for stuff that was done on his stuff?
Yeah, that was it.
That is pretty well said, to be fair, guys. That was very well done. It's as good as it gets.
Is that clear with you, boys?
That's a good summary.
Yeah.
Going on to
well
the...
done, cuz.
Look, we're not trying to keep it fancy here, alright? We're a couple of punters, boots on ground. Alright. The next thing he went into was stopping the ongoing wars and doing everything they can to cease the wars in Ukraine and Israel. He didn't really explore it too much, but he just wanted to and I guess that's also a throwaway to the Kennedy ethos, and that was what he did kind of reflect on what his uncle and his dad stood for, being, and he wanted to project that global image of the US being a Peace Corps, not a soldier carrying a gun. And unfortunately, that's very much how the US is seen across the world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very true.
I was reading
what
into
do you
it.
think? What do you think they?
But just on a quick sidebar. So something that has actually been going kind of quite underreported is on the speaking of global wars, is what's happening in Sudan, and that's like just ticked over, like it's about a year and a half into its civil war conflict that started in April 23. And they're saying that so far the fighting has killed 150,000 people, with ultimately there could be up to 10 million people that die from starvation here. So they're saying the humanitarian crisis, what's happening in Sudan right now, is far more severe than anything that's happening in Ukraine and Israel combined.
150,000.
Yeah.
Is this
What's the civil war started from?
It's kind of, they just came out and released some updates. There's been a Dutch think tank that said projections on how many people could starve, and the brewing humanitarian crisis, because there's at least 8 million people displaced. So essentially there was a falling out between the army, which is the Sudanese armed forces, and like a paramilitary group called the Rapid Support Force. So they're two armed groups, and they've come to clashes. So the capital, Khartoum, just got absolutely flattened, and that's destroyed. Everyone's scrambling across the country. Some people are going up into Egypt, so Sudan just sits below Egypt, and on the eastern coast is the Red Sea. But most people are just scrambling around the country. The problem is the SAF are backed by people like Iran and Egypt, and the RSF are backed by the UAE. So there's these global powers stepping into play. Russia's kind of playing both sides of the fence, because it's just chaos. And Russia wants to get a Red Sea naval port because it's helped the SAF, who are kind of like the original government, and so does Iran. So all of this could just mean they're using it as a means to get a better foothold on the Red Sea, which is obviously controlling the Suez Canal, connecting Europe and Asia. So anyway, just a bit of a sidebar there, something that I wanted to bring up and touch on.
Yeah, it's interesting. Why do you think it's not making headlines?
I think just historically, the press doesn't really care about Africa.
At all.
Yeah, but with...
Unless there's a virus introduced from Africa into a Western civilization, then they care about it.
Yeah, this is way bigger than anything that we've seen. Bigger than even, it's looking like it's going to be bigger than what happened in Congo. But yeah, it's like the press just we don't really care about starving Africans. We don't really care about
10
struggles.
10 million,
it never
though,
really makes...
That's 1/4 of their population.
Yeah, correct.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, you'd
That's
think there'd be
a
some.
lot of people.
That is Jesus.
And
Not
so
good,
yeah,
guys.
it hasn't really
Not
made
good
a
at
lot
all.
of made a lot of headlines. But it's interesting where Sudan actually sits and the like in terms of how much of a mess that could make. Because you look at like Egypt. Egypt to the east, it's got Israel and everything that's happening there. And then to the south, it's got Sudan. So that country, those two borders are just like fucked. You've got people pouring in from Gaza, and then you've got people pouring in from Sudan. And then all of these people, they can't stay in Egypt. So where are they going to go?
Yeah.
Across the Mediterranean into Europe.
Yeah.
So it's gonna bleed into us, and it's gonna make a huge mess. The millions upon millions of people displaced, scrambling around.
Yeah, but how are they gonna try and get across there into Europe? Like, obviously the border controls will be quite strict, and where are they gonna go? They're not gonna go through Egypt, because Egypt won't allow that.
But if they
They're
pour
gonna
into
go through-
Egypt, they just start hopping on boats and going across into Greece.
Yeah, but you reckon
and wherever
Egypt's
they can
gonna
go.
allow that though?
Well, there's only so much pressure a border can take.
Well, I suppose that's true. It's a long way to go though. Across Egypt to the Mediterranean.
Yeah,
That's a decent
Yeah.
walk.
that's a joke.
That's a few marathons right there, because it's,
Yeah, none of this is easy, guys.
it's quite difficult, guys. But fair enough. Why don't they go south into like Ethiopia or Eritrea?
You reckon that's better? Go south, head toward Kenya,
Yeah.
Ethiopia. You reckon
Eritrea,
that's greener pastures?
Somalia. Although
Trekking
Somalia's
across
probably
Egypt
good.
into the Mediterranean. It's a
I
hell
would
of a
be-
lot
I-
easier going south.
But there's nowhere. What's the end point?
We just go into another.
Ethiopia's yeah,
like,
Ethiopia's
yeah.
pretty green.
Going to another third world country. Carve
Another
out a
African.
living for yourself.
Yeah.
Is Egypt classed?
None
as
of these
double-
countries are exactly welcoming of displaced refugees. So
Well,
What about
I would be trekking up into Egypt, hopping on some sort of truck, and going as far north as I possibly can, and trying to squirrel
get
my
to
way
Greece.
onto a boat across the Mediterranean.
why
That's
not
exactly
go
what
west
I
into Chad?
go inland.
I'd go
Yeah,
south.
go straight into Chad.
Yeah.
All right, look, let's
Yeah,
just
just
say I'm
across-
lucky I'm not
just
camped up
across-
with you boys in Sudan.
It's just across the desert, guys.
That's good.
Straight across the desert.
That's
We'll
goes
be
to
split
Chad.
our ways.
I head south. Maxie goes to Greece.
Maxie's into Greece. I'm going straight into Chad. You're going into Ethiopia, because there we go. Squared away.
Yeah.
I like
So-
my chances of not getting caught before Maxie, though. I reckon Maxie's caught well before either you or I.
Yeah.
Straight back into Sudan.
Then get
Start again.
locked up in Egypt.
Start again.
So anyway, RFK Jr. He wants to end these wars as quickly as possible. The other big thing, it was chronic disease epidemic. He didn't really have a chance to go into it as much as he would have liked. But he's written a bunch of books, Bobby, and one of it, I haven't actually, not that I've read any of them, but one of them was looking into the rise of autism and how which he does reference here. They're saying it was one in, roughly 5,000 kids back in the 60s when his uncle was president, and now it's by some rates 1 in 34.
Is it really 1 in 34?
Yeah, I checked that as well.
Holy shit.
Yeah. But I think, okay, I agree there's probably an increased number, but not to that level. I think that just a detection system for it nowadays is you can have such a slight bit of autism, and you're still on the autism scale compared to back in those days. They probably weren't
Everyone
even
says
testing for it.
that they're probably just picking it up, but I think that would account for some extent. But going from 5,000 to 34 is too dramatic to say detection by any means. I would say that that's still way too much to say that it hasn't gone up. To just say.
So where
we're
do you
finding
think that's
more
come
kids
from
with it.
then?
Well, I think that's something that we need to look into. Why has it gone up so much? Is it environmental factors? He goes into the endocrine disruptors and the effects that they have. So being exposed to those toxins like BPA and those other kind of really harsh chemicals He does reference PCBs, which were banned in the 70s, but whether or not those are still finding their way into our food systems, how much does our current state of agriculture affect our how much could that be driving the rates of autism? I'm not sure, but I think that's a pretty stark difference over a period of 60 years. And it's not something we really discuss all that much.
So is he pretty much fully anti-vaccine? Or is he?
He didn't really say. He was anti-vax. And
he's definitely anti-COVID vaccine,
but he's not. I don't think he's anti-vaccine across the board, but he's anti-COVID vax.
What, just for the time period that it took for them to get it done, or why is he anti-COVID?
I don't know. There's plenty of reasons why someone could be anti-vax, and he's got a lot of reasons, but he didn't go into them into this interview, so I don't really want to speak for him. The other big bombshell he dropped was that the CIA are going to declassify the JFK documents.
Yeah.
They've been saying that for ages, though.
I agree.
They've been saying that forever.
I thought that was supposed to be
never getting to the bottom of this. Yeah.
Well, last Trump administration, it was because Mike Pompeo prevented it. And Tucker Carlson rightly said that this guy should be trialed.
Yeah. There's always going to be someone that's going to prevent it.
He's gone.
They're not releasing
completely out the door. Yeah,
well, Trump dismissed
him.
He begged him. Pompeo begged Trump not to release him because he said it'd be a catastrophe. So that really makes you wonder what's in those papers.
It'll never be released.
What are they hiding?
It will never ever be released.
Was it the man on the hill, the grassy knoll? Yeah, they're not releasing shit, because it's the same with the UFO files. It's all that.
It's not. Don't clump it into that.
It's the same as the UFO. I agree with Ed on that one. It's the same as the UFO files.
It's not the moon landing. It's not the UFOs.
Same as the moon landing.
Moon landing. Aliens. It's all one. It's all one.
Yeah.
Don't clump me into that BS, guys.
Yeah.
All right, this is hard. These are hard facts. They're going to release the papers, and we're finally going to get some answers.
You're not getting any answers.
Ed's right. On the computer, because they've got a file says "Do not open or release," and it's just aliens,
it's everything in there.
JFK, moon landing, a few other things, but it's all
been
in one
archived
file.
for ages, guys.
Yeah, we'll never see it.
Well, I can't wait for that to be released. We might get the exclusive all access here on Lucas. We'll just be there, share screen when they click the fucking desktop.
Do a live scroll through.
Yeah,
that would actually be so dope. 62 years after
cool.
JFK's death, if we finally get some answers, that would be such a game changer.
Yeah.
If we do get any answers, it's going to be crafted. They're not just going to what do you think these release files are going to be?
I don't even think that'll be the real files. It'll be complete fake files.
Yeah, they're going to make
their own. It's going to be backdoor conversations with CIA personnel, boardrooms,
live recordings.
Yeah.
Just the full workings of the CIA.
The CIA didn't want Kennedy disrupting the war machine, all right? And he was.
Here we go. Don't start, guys. Let's not get back on the JFK conspiracy.
It's not a conspiracy, all right? He was assassinated by his own people.
It was an inside job.
Straight inside job.
So anyway, that's a little sidebar. Yeah, and don't get me started on the jet fuels. All right, we're not doing that.
Jet fuel doesn't melt aluminium.
Steel beams. No, anyways, the other thing as well that he pointed out was that there's been a complete reversal of the demographic of the voters. So Biden voters own 70% of the wealth. So that's all represented by big pharma and big tech, and Trump voters account for the 30% of America's wealth. So he makes an extremely good point. Back in the day of his uncle, the Democrats were they weren't big business. They weren't big corporations. Now that's all just been overrun with these guys. And that's why he's coming over to the Republican side, because there's been a complete inverse of the structure of it.
That is interesting though, because commonly the view is Trump's all for big companies. He's a billionaire himself. He's easing restrictions for companies. So
there's an easy counterpoint.
Yeah.
And did you guys get your head around this Thai business? It's I did a quick search. It's extremely confusing. But essentially, he's not taking himself off the ballot. He's only taking himself off the battleground states, which there are 10 states that is taking his name off the ballot. But he's still on the other, how many, 40, 50 states. So he said that if the polling does go to an equal 269 on 269, if it becomes a tie break, essentially, which has only happened once or twice in American history, they go and look at a third candidate, and then they have some sort of final influence. That's about as far as I got, because then the rules got extremely murky. But that's why he's still keeping himself on the ballot for the other states and taking him off the battleground states.
Okay.
So it's an outside chance.
There's an outside chance that he could, he wouldn't be president.
So what is he doing though? So it's just a swing voter. So he just swings some votes to Trump, and then Trump becomes president. Is that how it
on
works?
the battlegrounds? Correct. But he said in the instance where there's a tie, he could play a role in the formation of the party somehow. And I went into the rules, and it just got really complicated. So, but essentially, his main objective here is to get Republican votes in the battleground states.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So anyway, that was Bobby. He's looking pretty jacked as well. 70 years old, looks like a fucking $1 million.
Yeah, he's doing alright. He's definitely doing alright.
Man.
Sounds like shit. I don't know if he looks
He's
like
got
$1
a
million.
laryngeal condition, alright?
He sounds fucked.
If you notice, his voice gets better throughout the interview because his voice actually improves through exercising the muscles. So throughout a long conversation, you'll notice that his voice gets less crackly and stronger. He said he's doing 5 to 10 interviews a day, and Kamala is yet to do one. I just want to close out on that, which is crazy.
Do you think that Tucker Carlson would ever invite Kamala Harris onto a show?
Absolutely. I'm sure he's reached out to them.
Yeah, I thought he said he reached out.
Yeah, he's said numerous times that he's reached out.
But she just rejected him all the time.
Yeah. She said she's going to do an interview at some stage, but her party's not letting her, and it's just just so stupid. What's the point? He makes an extremely good point. What is the point of being in charge or being in public life if you don't want to promote your vision?
What about the one she did on CNN just recently with Waltzy? Is that an interview or that not past an interview?
What was that? It was Walt's.
There hasn't been anything.
Waltz. Yeah, there was.
It.
And Waltz got absolutely destroyed because he said that he served for 20 years, and it turns out that he actually hasn't served for 20 years. That
here we
he's
go.
done nothing like that. We'll just take a brief 5 minutes.
Just entertain yourself for a sec, guys. So first interview as nominee. Here we go.
Okay,
Yes.
there you go. Bang.
Yeah.
We get the first one. Tim Waltz, thank you, guys. Alright.
There you go, boys.
Alright, well, there's a bit to...
But Tim Waltzy gets destroyed in it.
Poor old Waltzy. So what did he say? He lied about him serving.
Yeah, he said that he served for 20 years and he's a patriot and blah, 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 and the rest of it. And people just picked it apart because I don't think he's actually ever served. To be fair, he was on and I wasn't really paying too much attention, but I was just taking little snippets out of it. But yeah. Apparently there's a lot of people online that are now just going, what's happening? What's going on here?
Yeah, okay.
Right,
Kamala kind of looks a little bit dumbfounded by the whole thing as well.
Yeah, about.
I think it's about 3 or 4 minutes in. Anyway, and she just hits him with the hard-hitting questions, the interviewer. Definitely worth a watch, though, boys. And if you want to, we can pick it up on the next podcast.
Yeah, we'll sit down and run through it. I mean, we've got until 11th of September before the first debate between the two of them. But it's pretty mental. This is her first interview since she's stepped up to the plate. And how long has it been? 6 weeks?
I like to
it's been a while.
a JD style interview. That was brutal what he come with.
Let's move on to JD.
That's a good segue into the JD.
Good segue, because respect to JD. He sits down with bloody Kristen, about 30 centimeters nose to nose, and they just start trading blows.
Face. Yeah.
Just having a crack.
Bare knuckles.
It's pretty unrelenting, just non-stop. I'm gonna have to stop you there, Kristen, and then she just keeps going in.
Yeah, but starting with the tariffs, can you just say that not a single? Are you really saying that not a single penny more for anything?
Yeah,
it's like that's not
really
how
it works. It's not really how tariffs work. Just say yes or no to this. It's just non-stop. Do you regret anything you're saying? I've regretted numerous things. But this does not make the top 10. Can you just apologize for what you said? I'm not going to apologize. It's just...
So yeah, the big topics are tariffs, abortion, borders, and then the election fairness at the end. Tariffs, honestly, I think JD Vance makes a lot of good points there about tariffs. He wants to bring in, manufacturing into the country and have less disruption and foreign influence on supply chains. I think that's a completely reasonable point to make. I don't know why Kristen was giving him such a hard time about that.
It's raising prices.
But yeah, it's going to raise prices. That's the problem.
Yeah.
In a cost of living crisis, we can't be raising prices. I think it'd be fantastic for the economy, just for jobs alone in the States.
Yeah.
I think the tariff thing is a really good idea.
Bring it back home.
Yeah. I think they need to, just with how globally unstable everything is at the moment. It's all on a knife edge. Like, everyone wants a piece of everyone, and I think, Australia is quite sheltered in that aspect where they are quite well, we do a lot of our own farming, we do a lot of our own mining. I feel like America needs to do more of that instead of just importing. We do a fair bit of manufacturing as well, Mexico.
Get me started.
We have lost a lot of manufacturing, but we could bring that back into Australia too. But as a whole, America just gets everything from overseas.
Yeah, they get chunks taken out left and right. I think it's a fair point. I thought the abortion was a good clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of making it...
state by state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And...
Well, you've been quite vocal about your abortion stance, then.
Yeah, I've been quite vocal. Yeah, Kristen... I don't really know what Kristen was getting at. So, she was saying, what was her side of the story? Why would anyone?
Don't drag me into this.
I don't want a piece of this because I think where we can just segue off there as well. I'll put another segue in there, guys. Is that Trump's come out and said, "We'll just let it go state by state." Literally, he's come out and said he's not going to have it across the board anymore. Just state laws. Any state can choose what they want.
JD Vance says he doesn't want to be bogged down in the federal government with this abortion BS. He said leave it to the states and let them sort it out. Okay, we don't have time for this. All right, we've got enough stuff to sort out on a federal level. So let's simplify things and leave that to the states. And I think it's perfectly reasonable. We don't want global, we don't want these stupid headlines coming out every day about some stupid, federal government issue with abortion. And he said the unique thing about the US is that there's so much variety in the way the cultures across the states that they can't really make everyone happy on a federal level, and it's one of those things that there's a reason why you have the Senate, the state government, and why we have states in the first place. So I think that's perfectly reasonable, and it was just a good way to shut that all down because Democratic Party were using that.
I think it's going to be boosting his numbers as well. I think doing that is because it was such a hot button topic as well. And I know you boys.
That's a knee jerk. We're all pro-life here. We don't want excessive access to abortions, especially late-stage abortions.
Is this your view, Maxie?
It's whoever's view you want it to be, all right? Fucking pussies.
Can you make a statement?
Here it comes from the yoga.
I'll make formal statements on behalf of the three gentlemen.
Of yogas.
In the courthouse
I think it was a smart move. I think it's Yeah, just a prediction out there, boys. Where are you seeing this happening at the moment? Are we seeing Trumpy in, or are we seeing Kamala actually having a chance of winning this?
I think the honeymoon period. What were they saying? That Kamala, I don't know. They had some sort of slogan for it, but I think that's kind of wearing off. The initial stir that it caused when she moved in, everyone going crazy. I think that's starting to wear off. There's only so many bloody like Oprah coming out, so many celebrity endorsements she can have before it comes off as tacky, and she's not making any statements herself.
Yeah,
No.
I think it's starting to wear off. I think we're seeing a resurgence in the Trump advocacy. So I think
I tend to agree. I think it's a lot for Trump as well. Looking at it, especially the past week and a half, I couldn't agree more with you. I think she has kind of run dry, and I think people are starting to see that as well.
Yeah, it's just starting to look like she's just a figurehead with no opinions for herself. She needs to start coming out and actually having her own statements rather than just like catchy one-liners and celebrity endorsement. Like, she's not doing anything.
She does love her celebrity endorsement. Get boots on the ground.
I forget. I'll sit her down 30 centimeters across and just start asking that.
What?
Hard-hitting JD
honestly,
questions.
I think you should probably reach out to her and just go, look, we've got
a few
podcast. Do you
contacts
want
with
to
that
join?
team.
Yeah.
I'll sit her down.
I'm one of the few people that's actually been paying attention here. And I've got a lot of things. I've got a lot of things to say.
Yeah. I'm not impressed with how you're handling this. Gonna need you to sit down with me.
Yeah.
1 hour, all inclusive.
Yeah.
Let's go
Need to
through
make
it.
time for this. I'm actually extremely keen to see this interview. I'm stoked that we've finally got something to work on here in terms of where she stands with things.
Yeah.
I hope that we actually get to see some actual positions, because all of it is just so wishy-washy. And the last thing that JD Vance was getting grilled on was the borders. She's like, can you not tell me that not a single family will be broken apart by a mass
Yeah,
deportation?
that's a tough one. That's a tough one to answer.
But he had an extremely good comeback there, saying that it's because of the soft borders that we get so many families being disrupted by child trafficking.
Yeah. No, he did answer, I reckon, pretty much all of them very, very well.
He was prepped, and I don't think they tell him what questions are going to be there. Maybe.
They would have, for sure.
Oh, I think they would have given him an outline, yeah.
Yeah, they would have told him the topics, but the constant pushback
You
she
reckon
was
just
giving.
topics? He gets bullet points.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
He did not stutter at all the whole time. Like, he must have been extremely prepared for each topic. Like, there's no way.
I don't want to
He's just an
disappoint you,
extremely good
boys,
speaker.
but don't expect
I'm
too much
serious.
out of this interview, by the way. The one
I'm
we're
extremely
about to watch.
keen.
It's not that great.
How long is it?
Well, just getting back to what Maxie said, he
Hour and a
wants
half?
to see her stance. No, it wasn't.
It's
It's just quite short, actually.
I
Hour and
think
a
it's like
half
10
deep
minutes.
dive. I thought it was a three-parter.
No three-parter.
Three-parter. Yeah, I think
Where'd you go,
it's...
Cuz?
27 minutes, guys.
Is that part one?
it
That's
is a
all of it.
three-parter on YouTube. I see where you got that
Broken
from.
out into 10 minutes. Yeah, okay.
10-minute
That's
chunks.
all. 10-minute chunks, yeah.
Alright,
Okay, fair
so
enough.
25-minute interview with first interview with the possible future president. And the other thing that shits me is that she wasn't democratically elected. She's just been whacked into it. They probably planned this from the start. Get Biden to run again, and then do the old switcheroo with someone they prefer. It just shits me like that. This wasn't ever in line with what democracy is supposed to be. So anyway, I'm keen to see what she has to say. I'll reserve judgment until I can actually see.
Well, we'll touch
she's
base
got
on
to
the
say.
next one.
Yeah, it sounds like you're
episode anyway.
a lot of judgment. Pretty impartial.
Very, very impartial.
Election fairness was the last thing, guys. Could we see more election rigging like we did see in 2020? Is it possible?
Yes, absolutely.
Of course.
Yes.
That's what Bobby was most concerned about. He's going to lose his 8-year window if these guys get Kamala in for 2 terms. He's like, that's going to be the end of what I can actually achieve with my political career. And it is quite scary to just contemplate if the way censorship's going and everything that these parties are promoting, how the world could look in 8 years' time.
Very true.
Yeah, he
Very,
said we
very
lost
true.
Europe. I mean, that was a pretty big call, but
It's a huge goal.
yeah, I would have been keen to hear a bit more on his thoughts there, on how exactly we've lost Europe. But anyway, want to move on to sports? You guys got anything else you want to touch on? Pen space?
Yeah, I do actually. Boeing. Well, I just did a little round the grounds on Cuz's portfolio. Nvidia, not slowing down.
Yeah.
Well done, Cuz.
Financial
Cheers,
updates.
Cheers,
Just
boys.
did a little portfolio update for Cuz.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the
Yeah, I
update.
appreciate it.
What's going on there?
Nvidia did a stock buyback or something. I'm not really sure what was going on, but not slowing down regardless. Boeing actually is looking half decent as well. I'm surprised, guys.
Cheers, boys. Thanks, lads. Appreciate it.
New CEO.
Boeing, and they're going to keep going. They're just going to keep on going, boys.
So a NASA exec came out with what happened in the boardroom about the Starliner.
Mm.
He said Boeing was just absolutely pissed that they're not using the Starliner. The Starliner's coming back next week, and now they've got their biggest competitor, Muskie, coming in to bring home those 2 astronauts in February. And apparently Boeing was just like going absolutely ballistic in the boardroom, being like, this is so bad for us. Bad press yet again. So, yeah, it's a tough one for them, but share price isn't really reflecting that, so fair play, because not too bad.
Appreciate it,
Defense
boys.
contracts. Paying
If
the
I
bills.
find any, defense contracts always come through, boys. They're rock solid. They keep the lights on. That's all you need. That's all you need. So
Well
should
done,
we
guys.
segue into some sports, boys?
Let's do it. F1.
I'll kick us off. I'll just kick us off first. Going back to the episode that did get cancelled, we're talking about we would not see another Usain Bolt in our lifetime.
Yes.
Well, 16-year-old kid, straight out of Brizzy. Straight out of Brizzy. Brizzy boy, 16. His name's
Yeah.
Gout.
Gout.
Gout. He
Where's he
has
from?
run. So he's straight out of Brisbane. He's from the
Right.
South Sudan. So he's dubbed the new Usain Bolt. He's just dropping in. So he's 16, dropped in a 10.57.
16.
16. 10.57.
Where does
So what
that
was
reach?
the
That's
Olympic? What was the Olympic record? The Olympic
9.6.
10
Yeah, this
point-
year's Olympics
No.
was like
I'm sorry.
10
I'm saying the from the previous Olympics. It's
From
just been.
Noah, he got 9.83 or 4, 9.84, I believe.
Did he break the 9? Oh, sorry, the 10.
Yeah,
I thought it was
Did he get
10.04.
No, because
Okay, guys. Take your words for it.
Yeah, I thought he didn't break something.
I mean, respect to him. His 16 is killing it, but he's not
16.
going to beat Bolt.
Well,
I want
a
him
lot
to.
of
Don't get
people,
me wrong.
a
I
lot
want
of
him to
people
beat
are
Bolt.
interested
Sounds
in
like
it.
you don't
Guys.
want him.
I want to see it because, but I just don't think it's physically possible, and not definitely not in our lifetimes at least.
So just because since the episode got taken down, can you just restate what he said, just for the viewers? It's
just for
going
the
to be
fans.
It's going to be confusing, tuning in now. Okay, so essentially, we've had Bolt come in at, when was his last games? Was that Rio 2016? Possibly. Was his last performance. I don't know if that was his world record then, if he beat his own record. Maybe that was London 2012. But essentially, his record stands
Beijing, I
at
think.
rough. It wasn't Beijing. But maybe.
I think it was. It was his first one.
So his first was his best. I thought his second. Anyway, regardless, 9.64 I think is the Olympic world record, and then subsequently no one's ever come close to it. And the most recent games was 9.8 something. I think 9.84, so a whole 0.2 behind it. And my argument is that. Yeah, if you can just do some background checks, then there's no actual real change in technology that's happening here. It's not like the cycling or pole vaulting or anything where you can actually check. There's lots of different technologies coming in terms of how these things that's supporting the athletes. The shoes, like how much can you really change about the sprinter's shoe? I think that's peaked in its performance. And even the track materials, I don't think they're going to be changing those anymore, and how much of a difference that would even make. So it really just comes down to the human element to it. And I don't think the combination of genetics and environment that Bolt was put into will ever be replicated. And just the odds, that was like a 1 in a trillion odd there of fostering this great athlete.
Yeah.
So that's my argument, in that
Yeah.
I don't think we'll ever strike out with those odds again, especially in our lifetimes. I think it is like just running the numbers. It is probably a matter of time, given all things equal. But as we've seen, no one's even come close to it. And I think that's a reflection of just how insanely gifted the legend was.
The second place Tyson Gay got 9.69 and Bolt got 9.58. So people have come close. So, yeah, I don't know. Within our lifetime, if that's...
That's crazy, actually. So second place for Bolt's year was in the 60s. And then first place this year was in the 80s.
I don't think
it was
this,
9.7.
he didn't set the world record at the Olympics though. His Olympic record is not his world record. His world record of 9.8 was from 2009 or 2010. Well, not on an Olympic year.
Yeah, that's right. Because
So I'm not sure what he actually ran at the Olympics.
Whatever, he's still got that record.
He's still got that record. That's correct.
Yes,
that's very true.
9.58. I don't think that's true. The world record 9.58. Breaking into the fives, like getting into the sixes is hard enough. That 5.8.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna call that it happens.
Look,
and
prove me wrong, lads. Prove me wrong. The
pretty
Brizzy
soon
lad
as well.
could be in with a chance. Hopefully, prove me wrong.
Gout
I'd love to
might
see
have
it.
a chance. Yeah.
Gout sounds like a legend.
Yeah, Brizzy legend.
Yeah.
Just straight out of
Right,
Brisbane.
what else?
Well, heading into the finals, so no AFL on this weekend for you boys out of Australia. So can't tune into the AFL on a week's break, and then we kick into the finals next week.
Nice.
F1. What did you guys think of the F1?
Sandut. It was good. Yeah. Well, I mean,
Sandut.
good to see our boy Lando come in with the win. I mean,
It wasn't just the
actually-
win.
Yeah.
It was how dominant he was, I think.
Yeah. How
It's simply
was like
lovely as well on the
15
mic.
seconds, 20 seconds,
20
or something?
seconds.
Yeah. Extremely dominant.
Took a few digs at
Yeah.
the steps. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
He
He
did.
said simply
Yeah,
lovely
man.
on the mic.
Yeah. He did. He did indeed.
He did, guys. So, I mean, now, look, he's 70 points behind Stabs. We've got how many more races? Like 7 or 8?
10. 10 more races.
10 more races. Yeah, well, it's going to be... Yeah. I think it's looking like Lando will overtake him.
It'll be pretty close because
pretty cool.
if Verstappen keeps finishing second, 7 points by 10 races, that's 70 points. That means Lando would need to win every single race. Like, I guess in saying that, Verstappen would need to come second in every single race. But the moment Lando doesn't win a race and Verstappen still finishes second or third, it's just gonna push him back.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot from Lando, obviously, but I think he's got an extremely good chance. What was he even going on with Stapp's car? Like, he's saying he's losing grip and the car's, like, performance was dropping off. Like, what was going on there?
I kind of feel like that's just excuses because
Oh, you think it? Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I think so.
They pulled him into
I
that
love
first pit. I
Hamilton.
don't know what they had. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Hamilton, but the same thing. Hamilton used to do the same thing when, he was getting overtaken when he was so dominant. It's
technical errors.
there'd be a few things wrong with the car.
It's always the car. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do believe that to an extent it probably is the car because the car is the most important thing there. You could probably take any of those top 10 drivers out and put them in the other person's car, and if their car's quicker, with a bit of testing, they'll probably be just as quick, if not, at the same level as Verstappen.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there because I am pretty keen for Monza. I just want to see Charles win it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, outside chance, Ferrari.
Nope.
Home turf.
No chance. Zero chance.
I don't
So
mind
it's
that. I
not
don't
a
mind
zero
that.
chance.
Cool. Don't mind it.
No. I'd love to
Okay,
see it, but it's not going to happen.
Well, I
Yeah, I
actually
can
put
sort
in
that shit
my
out.
fantasy for Monza, so, you know.
Oh yeah,
Do what you will.
Show the fantasy about that.
You're going ham. That's an interesting call. I think McLaren's going to take this one pretty easily. Their top speed's quite impressive, and Monza is got a fair few big straights in it. So
Yeah.
I'd
Doing
probably
all the
take
adjustments for the Monza track, you know. But yeah, we'll have to see.
McLaren. We will indeed. It's only a few hours out, boys. 12 hours.
Yeah.
A bit more actually. So 24.
Yeah. All right. Well, what else you got before we launch into the book, lads? Anything else?
Shoot. Not really. UFC. It's pretty quiet. We got
UFC
some
was
McGregor
quiet.
announcements coming up.
When's
Yeah, stay tuned for
Sean
that.
O'Malley going to come up against Nurmagomedov?
What?
Aren't they both
He's
big
facing
boys?
Marab.
Yeah, I saw that. Well, why isn't he
Atmosphere.
versing Nurmagomedov? When's that going to happen?
Why do you want that to happen?
Well,
So,
I just think that
You want to see his wrestling tested?
doesn't he hold the belt first off, and then why? But
Who?
this
Wait, Sean holds about.
yeah, he holds it for the bantamweight division. But then why has he even come up against Nurmagomedov?
Why are you such a fan of Nurmagomedov?
Why am I such a fan? Because I think he'll beat him.
Well, I don't even really know that much about it. Marab's definitely the next contender, though.
Well, Umar Nurmagomedov has 18 wins, 18-0, first off. He's been trained by Khabib. And I just think that he's come out and he's said that he'll take Sean O'Malley quite easily.
Yeah. It's all the same with those Nurmagomedovs. I'd be sus about his record, first off.
How do
You
you
reckon he's fighting
Yeah,
a few
fighting absolute, just washed.
trash?
Same as Khabib. Fighting people with, 3 wins, 6 losses. But, look,
He could be
fair
on
play.
some-
Getting the numbers up. Getting the numbers up.
I'll, that's
Well,
my
everyone
first.
knows that Sean's kind of in Dana's pocket, so I do wonder how much of it is just behind the scenes conversations.
Well, Marab
I-
actually might be out because he posted online. He cut himself in
So-
training, and
Okay,
Dana
so if
lost his
Marab's
shit.
out,
He came in. He
Yeah.
posted a video of him with these massive scissors taking out his own stitches, and Dana's like, "Why the fuck would you do that? A few weeks out from the fight, you've just fucked the whole thing." He lost his shit.
Do you reckon Dana's a forgiving type as well? Do you think once you cross Dana, once you just fucking crossed
you're
out of the
done.
books for a while? Yeah. Yeah, I kind
That's
of
pretty
get the
ruthless.
same feeling.
well,
I
I mean, if he likes you, he likes you though. I don't think
Yeah.
there's anything Connor could do to possibly have Dana let him go for life.
Well, that's
He's
true.
made too much money. If you're making money, you keep him happy.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's a business.
I'll add,
just like
I'll add
anything
one
else.
more thing to the sports is the US Open. Alcaraz. I think he's the second seed, or third seed, out in the second round. I think it's only the second time in a very, very long time that a top 50 seeded player has been knocked out in the second round of an
No,
Open.
really.
Yeah. And he was a 3-setter as well for Alcaraz. He
Yeah, straight sets.
just
What?
straight
Who did he
sets.
lose to?
I'm not
His
sure.
Van
I
der
don't
Schleet.
even know his name. Yeah,
Just
yeah, some
random-
unknown.
just some literally unknown guy. I was looking.
3
The
sets.
bookies had Alcaraz at 1.005 to win.
Wow,
1.005, and he lost.
that would have really stuffed up a
Jeez.
few multis.
Someone put 25. Someone put 25 grand on him to win $200 at a sports book in America. 25 grand to win $200, and just lost it all.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
25 grand.
Yeah, to win 200 though.
200.
Like, would you even risk it to win 200?
That's
He just would have.
But
He
on
would have
the,
thought
on
this
the
was
other
a
side
lot.
of things, whoever went for Van der Schlipp could have made a lot of cash. Cause
Yeah, well, that's true. Because
If you put 25 grand on him,
I don't think anyone was putting 25 grand on him because I don't think there would have been any money for Van Schlipp. I think everybody knew this was an absolute lock. Maybe his family did, but I think that's also against the rules. So
that's where it ends. All right. Well, thanks for that, guys. We'll keep an eye on the open.
keep
All right,
an eye
let's
on it,
launch in.
boys.
All right. So you boys get it done.
yep.
We got it done, cuz. The big book. Set the scene for us, cuz. Set the scene.
Yeah, everyone has to do it, guys.
All right. Well, I'm going to share screen here because I had to look at a map, and I think this is quite important here. So essentially, here we are going across the River Jordan, and this is where Joshua kind of takes us. So let's have a look.
Pull it up. Let's get down to the bottom of it.
All right. So I mean, it was all quite confusing because there's the River Jordan running straight up Israel, connecting the Dead Sea, and obviously we've got the 12 tribes coming over. They've done their time out there in the desert, and they are finally coming in. And we get some pretty decent narrative progression here. We get the lads coming in, and they initially come in. They cross the River Jordan and they go for Jericho. Is step one, and they meet up with these armies, but it's really light work for the Israelites. Take out Jericho, then they go south and they clean up the southern cities, and they also take out Ai or I city for I, and then they sweep up through the north. All of it happens quite easily and quickly. One interesting point I found was that when they first go. Before they go into Jericho, they send 2 men just to kind of scope things out. And that is essentially, they learned from numbers not to send in the top men, because if they think it's too hard, they could come in and possibly convince people that it's going to be too difficult for the invasion. So they send out 2 punters, and they go into Jericho and they come across the prostitute Rahab, and she shelters them, and they end up sparing her and her family. And yes, essentially sweep in through the south, sweep in through the north, and the whole of the 7 kingdoms falls to Israel quite easily. They send out the 3 tribes back over the river of Jordan. That's Gad, Reuben, and half of the Manasseh, as you can see there. And that's why I had to look at the map, because I'm like, weren't these guys, like Gad and Reuben, like the Reubenites, the Gadites, these guys were part of the 12 tribes. How come they're sending them back over the river of Jordan? And that's just because that's the land that they wanted. It's better herding or something up there. So anyway, we see the dividing of the land, and it all happens quite easily. I don't know. How did it read for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good start for Joshua. Taking names early on.
Yeah.
Gets the people on side. God shows himself. People initially trust him. So, yeah, you did well.
Yeah. There's a scene in 1013. There's like, they said the sun and moon didn't set for a whole day. And I do wonder if that was an actual astronomical event that happened. I wonder if there was some sort of solar eclipse, and because they said sun stands still over Gibeon and you moon over the valley. So the sun stood still and the moon stopped till the nation avenged itself on its enemies. I mean, I wonder if they're in the middle of this battle and they just got this solar eclipse and they're like, holy shit.
Yeah, but it doesn't really go into the meaning of the solar eclipse anyway. Like, it's God created.
Well,
That's the thing.
they interpret it as God is on their side, which I find quite interesting in the sense that that's always been the case in ancient history, except there's one notable example with Pericles in ancient Greece when the Athenians were fighting the Spartans, and there's a solar eclipse then, and Pericles, who was one of the Strategos, one of the generals, actually comes out and says, don't worry, this is like just this is just an astronomical event. It's not foreboding, yada, yada, yada. And he tried to like settle down the troops because all of them were getting pretty fired up. So this traditionally, these big astronomical events people would interpret as divine intervention. And Pericles was one of the first people to dispute that. But anyway, I do wonder if that was a real event in the throes of the battles. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. I was also thinking, so Josh, with the previous books, they span quite a distance over time. Where Josh was the first one, where we really narrow in on like 20 odd years. It's a lot happens in that 20 years where previous books are hundreds of years.
Yeah, Moses, like we go over five books, yet Joshua's lifespan, one quick book.
Yeah.
The writers.
Yeah, we get cracking.
Yeah.
Yeah, cracking. Well, Joshua dies at 110, and how old is Moses?
He wasn't that much older, was he?
Yeah. He wasn't that much older. I think it was around 120 mark. Notably, still quite sprightly. That's what I recall. Anyway, I agree because we Joshua. I mean, what's there really to say? They come into the promised land. They take him out, and that's that.
I kind of like this one because you're probably right. There's not much to really talk about in this book. It was short and sweet.
They come in, sweep through.
Come in, get the job done, move on.
Yeah.
So, they're victorious. What more is there to talk about?
Yeah, we didn't need more stats, more tabernacles. We didn't need that.
Yeah. Everyone gets their land.
It was a good read.
Fair's fair.
It was just a clean-cut story.
Yeah.
Yeah. We see the refuge
cities. There wasn't too much interpreting to have to happen in this one, where the other ones, you did have to reread a fair bit of it. This one, less so. Yeah.
Kind of got bogged down in the detail previously. This one, I liked the commander. What was that called when God showed himself as the...
that was dope, actually.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was a couple cool scenes in this one.
That's quite a powerful image they painted of they're like getting prepped to head in, and then like God reveals himself with like the sun behind him. It's like this soldier holding a sword, and you're just like, God damn, let's get in there. So yeah.
Joshua also saying, this was a quote, I think, to be honest. Very much of the land remains to be possessed. So, spouting that the conquest wasn't exactly finished.
Was not ever.
Still a fair bit to do.
Yeah. So because they spared some, and then I think some other people just, like the Canaanites, they got spared, but I think they didn't do a full sweep through, is what I interpreted. That.
Yeah.
Well, the Canaanites, that is the whole area. That's everywhere. That's promised land.
That's promised, yeah. That's right.
Yeah, so across the map, that's everywhere.
on this
that's
map.
the whole area.
Okay,
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But no, every city they went into, they sacked and burned. Those were the rules. The second you cross that River Jordan into it, everything's gonna burn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they stuck to the rules, and didn't really meet much resistance. There were those punters that were so scared that they just said that they weren't even Canaanites, and they just sold themselves into servitude. So, some people have different approaches. At the end of it, I mean, I actually didn't realize there's another water parting scene when they're crossing the Jordan. I thought it was just the Red Sea with Moses, but we see it again here with crossing the River Jordan. They part the river so the Ark of the Covenant can come through safely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, tidbits like that.
Yeah, it had all sorts of elements. The walls of Jericho is significant, but I didn't actually get to why. Do you guys know much about that?
The walls of Jericho.
Yeah, like the walls of Jericho coming down. It's like
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that was the first city they sacked, so maybe that's the main significance. I'm not too sure. The recap of the end, we get some more recaps, but they just bury it down into like really just one chapter here where God just reflects with them how far they've come. He's like, I took your father Abraham from the land, and then I gave you Isaac, and I gave you Jacob. Then we got Moses to get you out of Egypt, get you guys across the desert, and then I gave you Joshua to get the job done to cross the River Jordan. Yeah. So it keeps it light, nice and succinct, but that's another thing we do kind of commonly see, that they like to give us a bit of a recap, because it's a lot of volume to go through here, and like sometimes you forget about what that was happened.
Yes, no, very, very true.
Then anyway, we see Joshua's bones, grave, go with Joseph's bones, because they had brought them from Egypt.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of continuity there. I do like with the refuge cities, I know I keep harping on about this, but essentially if Up kills Hen in the woods with his axe by accident, he runs down to the gates of the refuge cities, presents his case to the elders, and then he goes in, and they can house him there for an indeterminate amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you're a big fan of that, Cuz. You're a big fan
I
of
like that. I like that.
We've covered that about 4 times.
You got some safe houses.
There's a couple of safe houses. Multiple passports. You're squared away.
Well, I think it's going to be a recurring theme here that those refuge cities are going to be pretty handy for the punters.
Yeah.
It's ultimately you get out of jail free card. We're going to see it coming up. We're moving on to judges
100%.
next. And
we're into judges next, are we?
Yeah.
What's the length of that one?
It's not actually.
Also, can you stop sharing the screen of the map, guys?
Fine.
Oh, I was enjoying it, Cuz.
We could get copy strikes for it.
Take that down.
We might actually.
It's not too bad, because it's 21 chapters, quick and easy.
Because where does Joshua
we're really
finish
getting
off?
into the thick of things now, lads. Like, Joshua finishes off with the promised land carved up among the 12 tribes. Joshua dying, obviously. So now it's a new one. New leader comes into the fold. And Judah. It's going to be this punter called Judah. So God's going to fire up a new leader, get him in the mix. And like you said, there could be a lot of Canaanites still floating around that they've got to clear out. They've got to settle in a bit more. I'm not sure. We'll have to see.
It'll be
Just
a good
quickly
read.
on the walls of Jericho is significant because it's the first town attacked, and it's the God promised what am I saying here? God fulfilled his promise of the. So God initially promised the land to the Israelites, and then they didn't get it until years on. So when the walls came down, it's God fulfilling his promise. That was the significance.
Yeah.
Well done, Cuz.
Kind of like crossing the Jordan, knocking down the walls of Jericho. Yeah, quite symbolic.
Yeah, it's big symbolic.
I'm just waiting for that one, Cuz. I appreciate it, Cuz. Very, very good. Oh, are we going to try and knock this one off for next week, boys?
I reckon we just power on.
But it's only 21 chapters. Let's just get it done.
Yeah. I
Let's
think that we just got to get this show on the road here. We've done the big books. Now it's going to be the quick hits.
We haven't actually. We're going back into the big ones.
Yeah, we're about to.
We've got a couple short ones, and then
bang.
Like Kings is like fucking huge.
Alright, don't be scared, guys. It'll be fun. Alright. Anyways, you guys got much on for next week? I guess we'll do the Kamala interview deep dive.
Yeah, let's do Kamala interview deep dive. A couple of news headlines. I wouldn't mind covering off a few news headlines. A few things happening. UK, Aussie, stateside, Europe side. Let's just get stuck into some of these headlines.
Yeah, we didn't touch on Ukraine. Just a couple of things with the F-16s.
There's a few things going down. So let's get into some news headlines and Kamala interview.
Yeah, not to mention the UK chaos. I mean, I'm keen to see what boots on ground you come up with. I mean, the positive news obviously being Oasis are back together, but I mean, there's a lot more sinister things floating around.
Literally the only positive news out of the UK at the moment. more sinister than not. But I'll get boots on the ground. I'll conduct a few face-to-face interviews.
Street
So we'll see
side
what's going on.
interviews. Yeah, see what they're saying.
Yeah.
Talk to the cabbies.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks for that, chaps.
All right, boys. Enjoy it.
Well done, lads.
Take care. Look after yourselves.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
See you, boys.
Bye.